Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the show. It's your host, Danny Haifong. As you can see, I am joined by geopolitical analyst and independent journalist, Pepe Escobar. He is joining from Shanghai, and it is very good to see you, Pepe. Welcome back to the show.
Wonderful. An enormous greeting to you, Danny, to all of you from Shanghai. It's 11 p.m., so the night's still starting. After a conversation, I'm hitting the night again, and this is the capital of the world. It's not even the capital only of Asia. It's absolutely outstanding. There are two capitals of Asia nowadays: Bangkok, in terms of soft power, in terms now of service, in terms of the best gastronomy, and Shanghai, of course. All of that, plus, of course, high tech.
Yeah.
So, and there's a rejuvenation of the city as well, especially alongside the river. To the west, Bund. The Bund is where the whole planet knows about the Bund, but they are renovating other parts of the Bund, and it's absolutely outstanding. And of course, rediscovering little secrets of Shanghai, especially trying to discover the new places as well. It's a full-time job, so it's an enormous pleasure. I had a frenetic week because, of course, Goldfinger and C. Dada.
Yeah.
So from yesterday night to today, finally, I managed to relax a little bit. So you may notice that I am now extremely relaxed.
Well, that's great. That's great to hear. Everyone hit the like button as you come on. That helps boost the show. And well, Pepe, how about we get started with this? I know you recently wrote up an article titled "Trump Pays Tribute to the Temple of Heaven" on the Trump-Xi summit that took place in Beijing. And as this was going on, of course, there was a lot of talk about Iran. There was a lot of talk about pressuring Xi Jinping and China on Iran. Now that Trump has landed back in the United States, there are reports from the New York Times that Trump's advisors are drawing up and passing along all of the plans to renew strikes. This despite the fact that Donald Trump just said, actually, within the last, I believe it was the last 12 hours or so, that he didn't even talk to Trump about Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. So I'm curious on where you believe things are now. Leon Panetta, the former CIA head, just said that Iran has a gun to the United States' head in the Strait of Hormuz right now. There's moves to make the Strait of Hormuz toll into a service fee that's just simply going to be rolled into the daily ongoing machinations of their new mechanism. And it seems that there's not a lot of good cards for Trump to play. That's exactly what Panetta said in his piece to the Times. So your thoughts on where things are here? It seems like China and Iran as well have played their hand very well when it comes to both this summit and the goings on around it.
Well, Danny, this is all so boring. my first instinct is to say, who gives a fuck? Especially when you are in Shanghai, especially when you are in the middle of the future. But okay, we need to do a little bit of a professional effort on a Saturday night to put this in perspective. So I'll try to be very brief about it. Essentially, Trump, in a matter of only a few days, he got 2 cease and desist orders. First from Putin, and after that from Xi Jinping. Did we register that? Obviously not. Okay, let's backtrack essentially. When Arakshi went to St. Petersburg and he met not only with Lavrov, but with Putin, and he explained the Iranian position in full detail for 1 hour and a half. That's a Minister of Foreign Relations being received by the President of the Russian Federation. These things don't happen every day. Very, very important. So what did Putin did afterwards? He picked up the phone. He called Donald Trump. They were on the phone for over 1 hour and a half. And basically, Putin was explaining everything that he heard in detail from Arakshi firsthand. He is, among other things, he was saying, look, if you need me, I can extricate you from this mess. Obviously not in these words, of course, but this was the message. If you need your off-ramp, I can help you. And I can help you to be the mediator with Iran. But, and that was the first cease and desist order, don't try to do anything funny in terms of renewal of the war, a new bombing campaign, bombing a civilian infrastructure in Iran, not to mention some sort of ground operation. Obviously, Trump didn't register. So what happened this week in Beijing was part two. Very, very important. Before, while on Thursday, Xi and Trump were discussing, that was the start in New Delhi of the BRICS foreign ministers meeting, which, to give you the short version, Danny and all of you, the audience, was a major disaster.
It was bad. Yes, chaos.
It was as bad as it can get. And it pains all of us who have been following BRICS in detail for years. And of course, staking our professional reputation on BRICS as the future in terms of the multilateral organization of the future. And I have to repeat this over and over again. BRICS remains in a coma. And it was not this meeting in Delhi that resuscitated BRICS. Lavrov was, I would say, uncharacteristically, almost like retracting himself from what happened. He was almost somber in what he said. There was not a joint statement. There was only a statement released by the chair, India. And guess what Modi was doing immediately after this summit in Delhi? He is doing a tour that started in the Arab world and will go to Europe, and struck a closer partnership with the Emirates, which, by the way, for all practical purposes, is at war against Iran.
And a big reason why there was this chaos at the summit, too, because,
exactly. And these are two full BRICS members. So I'm sure all of you can imagine the atmosphere at that table in Delhi when you had foreign minister of Iran and the foreign minister of the Emirates face to face. And it was almost coming to blows territory. And obviously, who was doing the mediation? Essentially Lavrov, because of very good relations with both sides. Wang Yi, was he in Delhi? No, because the most important thing was to be side by side with Xi in Beijing, in front of the American delegate, Trump and the American delegation, because of the several messages concerning Iran that came from Xi. Very, very sophisticated and articulated, but quite direct. And even considering that they were more or less, oh my God, the Emperor of Barbaria is here. We have to appease him a little bit, even if he came here to pay tribute, because the whole purpose of this trip, it was back to old dynastic China. This was the Emperor of Barbaria and his over $10 trillion CEOs coming to Beijing with their hands like this and asking favors from the big panda himself. This is the headline of this trip. And I use Temple of Heaven in my column with several ironic overtones. I'm sure many of you have seen the official tourist photo of Xi Jinping and Trump in front of the Temple of Heaven. So he was given the courtesy, allowed to enter the temple of heaven in more metaphorical ways than one. And of course, he received a masterclass in civilization from the moment he stepped foot on Beijing soil, including that fantastic private tour of the Zhonghanai, which is true. And Xi Jinping said that not many people come here, and this is from the time of Deng Xiaoping. But he said yes, but Putin was here, and obviously Xi Jinping did the full tour for Putin. But especially, showing those trees. This tree here is 250 years old. As old as your exceptionalist nation. This other one here is 400 years old. So this is how the Chinese do it, and with a lot of class. Obviously, this went over Trump's head because it's impossible for him to even understand that. It's on the same level of Marco Rubio, like an idiot inside of the Great Hall of the People, pointing to the ceiling, which, by the way, is something that there are tours of the Great Hall of the People. You pay 50 yuan, and you can do a tour of the Great Hall of the People and look at the ceiling yourselves. So this idiot was trying to show to two other mutts, Hegseth and Miller, look at the ceiling. Oh. So typical barbarians when they visit the court. Né? So the cultural humiliation of these Americans in Beijing was something for the whole world to watch, and everybody watched it, most of it. Anyway, the cease and desist order was in many levels coming from Xi. Without saying it that they have a strategic partnership with Iran, which they do, by the way, and without saying it that the Strait of Hormuz for China is open, because this is a government-to-government deal, and Chinese tankers can go back and forth in the Strait of Hormuz with no problem whatsoever. Basically, she said, yes, we agree that the Strait of Hormuz has to be open. We agree that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon because this is one of the most obvious things on the planet. Every kid knows that Iran doesn't want to have a nuclear weapon since the first fatwa by Khomeini 46 years ago, I think. Well, but of course, the cease and desist in terms of Iran was saying the indirect message, don't try to do anything to force the situation. And basically, as indirect as saying it, we are at this situation. The government of the United States, you are in this situation because you launched this war, essentially. So Xi didn't have to get into too many details about Iran. The cease and desist order was amplified to Taiwan because they can see what the Americans were trying to do in Iran and how this war is against Iran and also against China. And in the future, this can go through another choke point, Malacca, and then reach the South China Sea, and of course, reach Taiwan. So Xi refrained over and over again that Taiwan is a red line. And basically, he was telling Trump, don't try to pull anything fancy regarding Taiwan, including your $11 billion weapons deal, which Trump, when he back to the States, said, no, I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah.
So did Trump assimilate these sequential warnings by Putin and by Xi these past few days? I think we all have more or less the answer. Right? Not really. And do the Chinese and do the Russians care? No. Guess who's going to be in Beijing this Tuesday? Vladimir
Putin. Yep.
On an official visit. Do you think this is one of those coincidences falling out of the Temple of Heaven? No. This was meticulously prepared because now Putin will listen from Xi face to face exactly what Xi and Trump discussed in Beijing. So what all of these triangulations between the interlocking strategic partnerships, Iran, Russia, and China, are telling us is that they are forging their path together. They don't care what the Americans are. Of course, they care to a certain extent in terms of the disturbance of their economies and of the global economy as a whole. But are they intimidated by this new version of American pressure on three different fronts? No, of course not. Because their decisions are interlocked and they discuss this among the three of them over and over again. And all these meetings these past few weeks confirm that. Does Trump understand this? Of course not. Does Trump understand that in metaphorical ways and many more ways than one, he was ritually humiliated, maximum pressure style during this trip, and the Chinese didn't give him anything apart from being treated royally? But that's typical. That's Chinese sophistication and class. That's different. Did he get anything that when you read the transcripts from the White House that they made zillions of deals? No, none of that. If you go to the Chinese Ministry of Commerce, they're not admitting that any deals were made. And in terms of the bunch of CEOs with zillions of trillions of dollars together in market capitalization, we still don't know. They may have some crumbs here and there, but Jensen Huang from NVIDIA is not going to get any big crumb. Forget it.
He's having a good time, though.
I'm sorry?
He's having a good time.
Exactly. Elon Musk apparently enjoy his dinner a lot, as we could see in the footage. But nothing's going to change much. But by the way, their major Tesla Giga factory is here, is in Shanghai. Yeah. Nothing is going to change. So in fact, Musk has to lobby Trump not to slap extra tariffs, because then his business with Tesla in China is going to be in a major disaster. So not much has changed. Okay, if they're considering buying some Boeings, why not? That's a goodwill gesture. And they're considering buying more soybeans. Okay, it's not going to cost them anything. It's something that they have. Okay, we gave you another favor, so you have to give us something later on. And it's a personal favor to Trump. Buying more soybeans means buying extra MAGA votes in the Midwest. The Chinese know exactly how it works, and they know that they will be doing a personal favor to Trump. But apart from that, anything out of the ordinary, no, nothing happened. And of course, the contrast between the sophistication of the reception and the rituals per se, and this American delegation basically behaving like a bunch of hicks.
Yes.
This
yes, like literal barbarians.
Literal barbarian. But this was, and here in Asia, Danny, and all of you, but this is the first thing that people all over Asia pay attention. How you cannot lose face in the middle of pomp and circumstance or behave like a barbarian, which is exactly what happened. And some extra details which are quite telling. At the state dinner, in each table, there was a mix of Americans and Chinese sitting at the same table. Did you see any of the Americans even trying to make an effort to strike conversations with, and these people who were at the state dinner, this is the top of the top of the top of the Chinese leadership and also business.
No. Trump and his people wouldn't even use they wouldn't even use translators. First of all, they're translating devices, and there are people there ready to translate, and they wouldn't.
You're right, Danny. And even if they needed translators, there were zillions of translators in the room. Very, very easy. And of course, many of these Chinese officials, they speak quite decent English. But the Americans, they were huddled like in a little club from the provinces. They didn't even try. They didn't even try to network, to work the room, to talk to their Chinese counterparts. Nothing. So, as more provincial than that, I cannot see it anywhere. And it was a very telling spectacle for everyone. They don't even know what they're doing. It's too much. No, it's over there. It's not their pay grade. It's way above. They don't qualify. So it's no wonder that there was nothing that happened. But in terms of how China is engineering itself to be at the absolute center and heart of the drive towards a multipolar world and bypassing the Americas in each and every corner, this has been more than clear this past few days. And having the president of the United States and the president of the Russian Federation coming to Beijing to talk to the big panda in the interval of 5 days, that seals the deal.
Yeah, and we'll see the difference for sure in the optics of it all, because Vladimir Putin does not act like Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't even at the Temple of Heaven during that footage when Xi Jinping was telling Trump that, yeah, no real diplomatic or leader meetings happen here. We don't do that here usually, except for Putin. Trump was not even, he doesn't even know how to use a translator. You're supposed to look at this is the president of China. You're supposed to, but anyone, you're supposed to look at the person as you're asking the question, and the translator then translate. You're not supposed to ask the translator to ask the person. It just blows my mind that this is how American leaders act. But at the same time, I'm not surprised because of the hubris, which then gets me to this, Pepe.
Yes.
Did the U.S. delegation even realize that they were going in with very few cards to play, and that all of this talk about pressuring China on Iran only led to China reciting their Xi Jinping and the rest of the Chinese brass reciting their actual position on the matter, which equates to end the war and everything gets better? And to me, it seems like that spells out the landscape, right? If the U.S. wants this, global war, this third world war of trying to topple all of its so-called adversaries that form an alternative to it, we see now China and Iran stronger than ever, really. And that's that. Do they even realize this, Pepe? I don't know. But what's your thoughts on this?
No. They absolutely not. They are not mentally and intellectually capable of even doing the previous homework to start to understand what the Chinese are doing. I want to concentrate here. This is what I think was the most important. Xi Jinping said many things that went straight to the point, but I would say the most startling thing that he said in his inaugural speech was not even later, like when he was addressing Trump and the American delegation. He basically outlined in 3 words, with something very Chinese, his vision for U.S.-China relations, as he said, at least for the next 3 years. So this is the Chinese thinking about the rest of Trump 2.0. It's not that they're thinking this is going to be the rest of the century. No, not like that. And the slogan is a masterpiece, especially a masterpiece in terms of the Americans simply won't understand what he's talking about. The slogan is constructive strategic stability. Okay, let's speak one by one. The empire of chaos, lies, plunder, and now piracy, not now, it started already with Venezuela and continues with Iran. It's not constructive, as we all know. It's destructive, inherently destructive. It's not strategic, as we all know as well. At best, it's tactical, but crude tactics, and tactics that change all the time, and tactics that come out of the mind of the president of the United States at 3 in the morning. He posts about it, the next already forgot about his latest tactic. And of course, it's not an empire about stability. It's about deploying, instilling, disseminating chaos, lies, plunder, piracy, all of the above. So how can not only Trump, but the US ruling classes, the people who run the show in the US, how can they possibly understand a concept, constructive strategic stability? Absolutely impossible. So on top of all that, Xi said rationally, in fact, he didn't say it, he was thinking rationally, how can I expect cooperation from these people as, in his own words, the mainstay of the relationship? And once again, in his own words, healthy stability with competition within proper limits. For the Americans, there are never proper limits. And on top of it, they don't respect anything that is mutually agreed or in writing. To come back to our friend Grandmaster Lavrov, the United States is non-agreement capable. So, is this China proposing to the US a structural reset? Yes, it is. Is this the US not understanding that they have to accept a structural reset? Otherwise, it's going to be war against China. So the Chinese are saying, look, let's try to have some cooperation. And if we keep going on with, let's say, managed competition, it's fine, but manage competition. And in the end, we could have to something resembling peace. Danny and all of you in our audience, can we realistically expect this Trump administration to follow this road?
No. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Crickets. No, we cannot. We cannot. And it's so interesting because what you just outlined there, China was the one to release an actual vision for how to move forward.
Exactly.
The United States had zero. And usually the US does have a posture toward China that they already are ready to articulate. This Trump administration has avoided this at all costs in this current iteration, and even tried to ignore in the national security strategy any kind of direct policy toward China, and everything was really about China, but focusing elsewhere. And I think here, Pepe, this what you just outlined, what China's vision, it really seems like it's like China is offering the U.S. an opportunity to roll back and scale back many, if not all of it, if we're being ambitious, but giving the opportunity to roll back these self-destructive policies that only harm the world and, of course, harm the United States far more than they've harmed China. And I think that's a very interesting power dynamic that it's probably lost on the Trump administration, because all U.S. administrations, they always come in very high on their own supply. They think they're the biggest and the baddest and the best, the most exceptional. But even for, I think, many people observing, it might be difficult to see how that just happened. And it really marks, I think, a massive shift in the world. But your thoughts?
Absolutely. And this is how the two key powers driving this long and winding road towards multipolarity, how they are so intimately coordinating the whole thing. And the trip to Putin, by Putin, sorry, to Beijing on Tuesday, it's part of the whole show, let's put it this way. And of course, when we look at the parallel events, why it was a major disaster, they already knew, Russia and China, that India, the foreign minister meeting, would be a major disaster. Right. So And once again, it's going to be up to them, Russia and China, to put the BRICS Humpty Dumpty back together. It's going to be very, very difficult because now we have an India Emirates problem at the heart of the 10 BRICS members. Partners is another story. If they were partners, this would not be such a big deal, but they are full members. So when you have these two BRICS full members totally aligned with Israel, and we have this, okay, we can try a short definition: Zionist, Hindutva, Wahhabi connection.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Wahhabi with the ISIS overtones.
Now that's a horrific triangle, but yeah, continue.
Yes, but this is as toxic as it gets in terms of triangles.
Yep.
So how Russia and China, which by the way have good relations with all these three, but how this is going to blow up the BRICS construction from the inside. So I interpreted what Lavrov said, which was you could see that it was not the usual enthusiastic Lavrov when he talks about BRICS. Basically, he was admitting, oh my God, we have an uphill struggle in front of us, but it's inevitable. And if it's not us, nobody's going to do it. And obviously, this will be discussed on Tuesday between Putin and Xi. And obviously, they have to think about what Russia and China can do in this next, 3 months? Yeah, 3 or 4 months before the summit in September in New Delhi. If nothing is done, BRICS arrives at the summit completely blown up from the inside, which is the worst possible outcome. But if we can have a sort of parallel strategy by Russia and China inside BRICS and with some of the BRICS members, I could venture maybe Brazil will be part of it, depending on how Lula feels that he can win the next election, and then his vision for BRICS long term continues. And the fact that he has very, very good relationships concerning BRICS with both Putin and Xi. So we coordinate how BRICS is going to evolve from now on. And the other ones, they may sit at the table, but they won't be part of the key decisions. But that's an enormous step ahead because theoretically, and Lavrov was the first to say it over and over again, this is a table where everybody has the same voice, is equanimous, etc. But there's got to be some sort of hierarchy inside BRICS. Otherwise, what the rest of the global South, starting with the 10 partners, plus everybody that is on the list, is still 30-something countries that are still on the list because they want to become partners or full members. What they have achieved since the summit in Kazan in 2024, and it was not so bad, at least at the last minute, the summit in Rio last year, was going to collapse completely. And unfortunately, the leading multilateral organization in terms of formalizing this path towards the multipolar world, it's not the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, it's BRICS. So that could lead us to the possibility that maybe in the midterm, and the first one who actually saw this coming, Lukashenko, they should merge. And if they merge, it would be something absolutely fascinating, because then we're going to have the whole of Central Asia, not only 2 partners, but the rest of Central Asia, and we're going to have Pakistan on the table as well, which is something that it's starting to be discussed seriously by the Chinese, by the Russians, by many members across the global South. They are looking at this new Sunni, the four Sunnis, let's put it this way, sort of alliance in terms of finding a solution for the US against Iran. Who do we find? We find Egypt, which is already a member of BRICS. We find Pakistan, which could become a member. We find Saudi Arabia, which still on the fence. Are they inside BRICS or not? They still don't know because they are hedging all the time.
Right.
And we have Turkey, who's dying to get into BRICS, but of course, nobody trusts Erdogan.
Yep.
But the fact that this already exists, Danny, it's very, very interesting. And this is something that I heard from some of my Pakistani sources. They are treating this very, very seriously because they do want to get inside BRICS. And they think that now they are earning the stripes because of the mediation. They earn their stripes, and they said, oh, look, inside BRICS, as one of the leaders, we are trying to position ourselves as one of the leaders, not only in South Asia, but across Asia. And we are a nuclear power on top of it. BRICS is natural territory for us. What is the Hindutva Zionist alliance is going to do about that? So, you know, everything can go, can be turned upside down in a matter of days, in fact. But the possibilities are fascinating. And they are realistic. They are realistic. But once again, in the driver's seat, we're going to have some extra details, maybe not leaked this Tuesday. Once again, Russia and China.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Pakistan question is very interesting, given that CPEC is very big, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. And what Pakistan has already done to ease the I guess the relative pain of the blockade for Iran with the land routes and it being very public, right? I mean, it's one thing for that just to exist, but it's another thing for it to be a very public showing and Pakistan not complaining about it, unlike what we've seen with the UAE, which the UAE may vary with the Emirates may very well further diminish not just the US's position, but also any of these monarchies that want to hedge too far to the U.S.-Israeli camp, in that now the UAE is complaining. I don't know if you saw this, complaining that Israel has leaked all of the secrets of their canoodling and planning and all of this meetings, a secret meeting from Netanyahu to broker this war. Now we're hearing rumblings that a lot of these monarchies are not happy with the UAE, and this could Saudi Arabia is not happy, Kuwait, for whatever that's worth, is not happy, and they're not loving any kind of mending of ties, especially Saudi and UAE, which are very bad already. But they're not loving what the UAE is doing. So this it's causing a lot of problems within BRICS, but also it seems like it's a very desperate situation. You know, Trump is looking for big wins now, or the optics of a victory. He just bombed Nigeria, some ISIS leader that colleagues at DD Geopolitics say might not even have been alive already, or and of course, you know, with all this rumors about bombing Iran again, it's obvious the U.S. is feeling very insecure, and I see this gamble on the UAE as like the big proxy for the U.S. to administer any kind of a regional hegemony, and there is super desperate and seems to be a recipe for disaster. But what are your thoughts on this?
Totally desperate, and they put all their cards on MBZ. So MBZ is going to be our proxy in the Persian Gulf. They looked at how Saudi Arabia is hedging. For the moment, they are not doing anything against Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia, MBS is wily enough not to directly antagonize the Americans. But very, very important, their foreign ministers, Saudi Arabia and Iran, they're talking. Extremely important. Let's say the coalition of the four Sunnis, let's put it this way, it's still there, and it's solidifying itself. And of course, they are looking at a place, a multilateral place for them would be BRICS. assuming somebody will trust Erdogan. Okay, nobody can bet on this one, right? But the way Pakistan has been helping Iran practically in terms of opening the 6 overland corridors with Pakistan and even opening the port of Gwadar to Iran. Gwadar now is working also as an Iranian port. This is immense because until what, a few months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, when we looked at the situation between the Sea of Oman and the Arabian Sea, okay, we have 2 competing ports, 80 kilometers away. When I was in Chabahar, it was fascinating. When I was discussing with the guys at the ports, I said, yeah, Gwadar is our neighbor. They are 80 kilometers from here. And it's essentially a very important port for China. But then I looked around and I saw a few Chinese tankers. I say, okay, but look, what are these Chinese tankers doing here? And they said, yeah, of course, they come. Okay, every week there's 1 or 2 Chinese tankers who are coming here. Obviously, because the Chinese are already looking at Chabahar. I said, wow, let's turn this into a Chinese port as well. So from an Iranian point of view, not only Chabahar is going to be very important because of the international north-south transportation corridor, but it could even be incorporated into the Chinese New Silk Roads. Mm-hmm. This is fascinating. Nobody, Danny and all of you, could expect this to happen. And it reveals a lot of goodwill by the Pakistan, and the relationship between Iran and Pakistan now is probably the strongest in decades. Yep. This is really, really good. And of course, Iran is going to say, look, let's bring these guys into BRICS as well. It's something that China would say yes, something that Russia would say yes. Once again, what's going to be the reaction of the Zionist Hindutva alliance?
Yeah, India. I mean, the thing with that too is, and that's exactly what you were saying earlier about BRICS needing to drop this consensus model. Yeah, I mean, when you have India, of course, with Pakistan relations are always, they're just not good because of that history and that current reality. Then you have the UAE, of course. Look at what we just talked about with the role that it's playing. Yeah, there are players inside of BRICS that are they're spoilers. You know, they are playing kind of. You know, in the U.S. sense, we think of like gridlock and blocking. You know, what's that term that we use here? Filibustering, right? Like no one's giving a 23-hour speech or sitting at the podium for 23 hours, but they're trying to do the similar thing, which is to block any of this kind of progress. And Pepe, during this period of hostilities and war on Iran, I mean, the way Iran has been speaking about Pakistan, and even the way